Okay, so basically there's a new memory check that's been implemented for essentials, and that new memory check prevents us from running too many instances at a time to create competition for memory or anything like that. The new version was introduced back on July 11th, and there's a formula that we use to check for that memory. For the memory that we check is the total system memory times the memory consumed by the solution divided by the memory allocated to the solution, and that equals the number of concurrent instances that you can use rounded down to the nearest integer. I'll show you where to manage these memory options in the tool, and I will show you how to script scheduled backup jobs so that you can prevent multiple instances from occurring where you have one backup that's already running and then you have another scripted scheduled backup job to run, and it can't because there's not enough memory. I will show you how to prevent that from happening. So to manage the memory, go to Help and then go to Profile Manager, and then there's a tab here called Memory Management. And what this memory management does is it allows us to determine how much memory our tool is allowed to use. And what we will do is we will take up that allotted amount of memory each time an instance starts. You can run more than one instance at a time of the memory that we have in the tool. So we can set it to where it is the total memory detected is the total memory that's on our system. The configured memory is how much we have allocated, and then the recommended memory is just a default recommendation that we have for running our tool. So I'll save this. You have to restart the tool anytime that you do make a memory change. So we've reset the memory to where we can only run one instance at a time in the Profile Manager, because if we run more than one instance, it will use all of the available memory. Somewhere else that we can that is measured is how much available memory there is. If you go to Global Variables and scroll towards the bottom, there is a setting for the total system memory usage. Now, the total system memory usage isn't just our tool. The total system memory usage is all of the memory that is being consumed by any applications. If more than 80% of your memory is being used by either our tool or any other tools that you have on the machine where this is installed, then we won't run. And you have a few different options here where you can set, and we recommend 80%. That's fairly standard. That gives you a little bit of leeway. So we'll set that to 80%, and then I've got it set to where I can only run one instance. So if I try and launch another instance of the tool, I'm going to get an error message. So hold on just a moment, and that error message will show up in a couple different places. So the first place is going to pop up if I try and run the tool. It's going to say that there was an instance already running and there's not enough memory to start another instance. So I either have to wait until one of the operations is completed and the instance is terminated, or I have to go manually terminate the instance, or I need to change my memory allocation. So it will show up here. If you have email notifications configured, it will send you an email and it will show you there. It will also show you on the logs. So if you pull up the logs, this is the one that I just did, that I just ran, where it's going to tell me that there wasn't enough memory to start another instance. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change my memory back so that I can run more than one instance. Go back to memory management and allocate this. I'm going to set this there. And so now I'll need to restart the tool. So now, to create a backup schedule, which I've already created a few backup schedules. Basically what we would do is we would go to our backup tab and we would select what we're going to back up. And we'll call this here. connect. Okay, and now that that's verified, I can choose my backup options, and once I've chosen all of my backup options and I've chosen my retention policy, which is how long to keep full backups, how long to keep incremental backups, backup location is saved to, which I have to have permission to. I have to have permission to access that because that's where all my backups are going to be stored. What I need to do then is I'll click the schedule button, and what this will do is give me an option. Now, right now it says one time only because I need to create a full backup before I can create any other schedules or any other backup. But once I create this, then I can go in and I can edit the schedule. So I'll click next. I need to change the date for when this will start, change the time for when this will start because it can't start before the current date. And then I'll click finish. And what this will do is it will launch the task manager on the machine for me. And it will take it a second while it's generating the script and creating the task. Oh. Okay, so there we go. The task was successfully created. So if I go to the task scheduler library, under architect tasks, that's where all of my backup tasks will be. So the one that I just created is this one right here. And so we'll look at some of the properties of this one. And as we look at the properties, we want to make sure that it's set to run whether a user is logged in or not. And so that way it prevents having to be logged into the machine to run. And how often it will run. And this is what it's actually doing. What it's running is a command line prompt that then runs a script that will launch the application. And when it launches the application, it will launch it as a background process. So when you run this and it says complete, what it's actually saying is not that the backup job is complete, but treat this more like a launcher where it's saying that it successfully launched the command line script. So it will say running, but it will only say it for a second before it says ready again, or it says that the task was completed successfully. So don't count on this indicator as a determination of whether your backup was successful or not. All this does is tell you that the backup was successfully launched. If you don't have enough memory allocated, this will still show that the task ran successfully. And it did successfully run because all it was doing was launching an instance of the tool. So I want you to make sure that you are aware of that this indicator does not necessarily mean that your backup was successful. That just means that it successfully attempted to start the backup. So the actual script is located in a different area. And a quick way to get that is go to Log Manager and then Show Workspace, and then that will show your .metadata folder. And then in your .metadata folder, there's a folder called Tasks. And this is where the actual scripted commands are. And these are basically just batch files. And so the one that I just created is this one here. And we can edit it, and we can see that basically what this does is this is the command line to launch the instance. What the command is basically just flags that will show all the information that I passed to start this backup. Now, this command here where it says no splash exit is actually two different commands. Exit is a separate command that exits out of the command prompt. What the no splash is, when you start the application, there's a small white window that shows loading workspace. That no splash flag, all that does is prevent that from showing. That way, if you're working and scheduled task kicks off, that window doesn't pop up to interrupt your work or anything like that. Now, if we have two scheduled backups that are scheduled too close to each other, and we don't have enough memory to run, what will happen is one backup will be running, and then the other backup, if it's scheduled, so say a backup takes a half hour to run and we have another backup that's scheduled for 15 minutes later, that second backup won't run if there's not enough memory for it. So one of the things that we want to do is to make sure that we run our backups and that we schedule them to where we don't have any overlap to make sure that we have enough memory. Well, we can do that in the task scheduler, but a better way to do that would be to combine the tasks into one scheduled task script. And a way that we can do that is we can create a new backup. And so we'll create a new backup, and we will do let's do mailboxes. I'll create the connection. And then once this connection is created, project name. Then we can click on Generate Script. And what Generate Script, basically all this does is create that same line that shows up in our command line or something similar. So we can copy this to the clipboard. We'll go to our tasks folder, and then we'll edit that script. And before the exit, we can paste the next backup command. So what will happen when this scheduled task runs, the first thing that it will do is this backup that I've highlighted, and then once that backup is complete, then it will run this one. And then once both backups are complete, then it will exit the script. So if we do this, this makes sure that our backups will run sequentially instead of simultaneously. So we can save this. And so now I can go to that scheduled task. And I can run it, and what this will do is this will actually run that backup. But again, like I said, just a few seconds, and it says that it's ready and that it was completed successfully, but that doesn't necessarily mean that my backup was completed successfully. So if I go to my backup logs, what it will probably show me is that that backup wasn't successful because I don't have, I don't think I have enough memory allocated. Go to history. Yeah. So 2 instances of the application currently running, and there's not enough memory to start another instance. So that's what we've run into, is that that backup couldn't run because I don't have enough memory allocated. What I would have to do is allocate more, is to either add memory to the machine, or I would have to say that each instance will use less memory so that I can run more instances at a time. Okay. Thank you all for being patient with me. Are there any questions that I can answer for anybody? Okay, we have a question. If you can only run one backup at the same time, why would you want to run multiple instances of the program? I'm sorry if I wasn't clear. You can actually run more than one backup at a time as long as you have enough memory and the proper memory allocation. So if you have the proper memory allocation, you can run more than one backup at a time. You just want to be careful with what you do as far as the memory is concerned, so that if you have multiple instances that are running at the same time, you don't have one where one will run and then the second one doesn't have enough memory to run. So you need to make sure that the memory allocation is correct so that you can run more than one instance at a time. Are there any other questions? Okay. Well, there are no other questions. As always, if you do have any issues, please feel free to contact us. And thank you for attending.